AJ Haney.
Here.
Anna Saba can't make it tonight. KJ Garner also can't make it. Carrie Rogers.
Here.
Courtney Ross. John Norris.
Here.
And Chris Wyman will be joining us next month, hopefully. All right. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes from last month's meeting? Any edits on those? If not, do we have a motion to approve?
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? All right, minutes are approved. All right, we can move on to the agenda for tonight. I think we have one update to the agenda. Is that right, Brent?
Yes, I've got one update, the programmatic updates 7A. We'd like that one to, that will not be ready tonight. We need more time with the East Bank team, so we can bring it back at a later meeting. If that could be removed from the agenda.
Okay. Brent, do you know who the point person is about that currently?
I believe it's Ben York is heading that up, the East Bank project. There's a whole team there, obviously, is what I've heard. Is that correct? Oh, our director's here, Ms. Alarcon.
All right, perfect. Yeah, we can add that to our agenda for the December meeting. I know we've reached out multiple times and have not been able to get anybody to present on the East Bank, so we'd love to get an update on that next month if we can. All right, do we have anybody here from the public wishing to speak for public comment? I don't think we got anybody signed up. All right, so we can move on to subcommittee report outs. All right, so the rules, process, and reporting subcommittee met prior to this meeting, discussed a couple of things. We talked about the agenda items for this meeting, talked about the Walk Month proclamation we'll be voting on in a little bit, as well as our statement on the Commerce Street redesign. We talked about our annual report, which we will be working on to vote on at our December meeting. We have our report from last year we'll be basing this on, so I might be reaching out to you, Brent, with a couple updates on some data and stats we can include in that report, so we can work on that and then talk about that at our next meeting. And then I think we have one vacancy who's hopefully getting filled. Chris Weinman should hopefully be joining us, so we're happy to have him. Hopefully welcome him at our December meeting. Any other updates? And then I know Courtney had a couple of kind of logo designs maybe to talk about from the community engagement subcommittee.
Yes. First of all, I apologize for not being able to have a subcommittee meeting today. Work got in the way. There we go. But yes, Brent's going to pull that up, and I think he passed it out in my absence. But first, while he's doing that, I want to just express my appreciation and our appreciation to Courtney Stone with NDOT, who met with us last month, and we went through a SWOT analysis of, how we get to this moment. But right here is, after that great conversation that most of us were involved in last time, looking at other BPACs, and I can show you those as well. But based on our feedback, based on the conversation around what we want to portray as a BPAC, this is the suggested logo for us moving forward. So would love to have any discussion about it, see how you feel about it. If you like it, we could vote to adopt it, perhaps. But any discussion on what you thought? If you'll remember, there's one similar that they mocked up for last month with the pedestrian and the bike reversed, but we changed that and we talked through the colors. But we really felt like it demonstrated what BPAC is and a little bit better representation on our materials moving forward. Any comments? Any objections?
Well, which background are you favoring?
So these would just be two versions. So it would be, this is showing it in kind of a reverse. So if, depending on what background you have it, so if you had it on a white background, you would use the more translucent one, and then you could also use the other. Do you have a preference? I think I like the white, the cleaner one versus the black one, yeah.
It's hard to make out the small letters.
Yep, I agree. So we could ask Courtney and her team if they could, even enhance the color to make even the one on the white background, make Nashville a little bit more prominent. Okay, we can make some of those edits. Overall, do you like the design of it, just to have as a uniform? Okay. So I will work with Courtney to just refine this. I'll show it to you next month, but we can probably go ahead and get going on it. Brent, do you think we need to vote to approve it? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So, any motion to approve the logo for the Nashville BPAC?
Logo, except I got one question. This one's black and that one looks brown.
Oh, that's just the color up there.
Oh.
That's black up there. But to your point, you can't really see the Nashville on that black background up there. So so maybe is there a motion to approve with the edits we discussed, and having the white background on the final copy?
With Nashville being more prominent.
And Nashville being more prominent, yes.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we're moving forward. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Courtney. All right, planning and engineering review is still kind of regrouping, hoping to get some new members, so we can maybe talk about that next month. All right, so we can move on to programmatic updates, and first up is Michael Briggs.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. So you have before you several items that were also included in the agenda packet related to Choose How You Move. The first is a progress update. So it's a one-page front and back that has a overview of the whole program. So giving you background as to how we got here with Choose How You Move with the referendum passing last fall. And then several key milestones that happened earlier this year, which included the implementation of the half-cent sales tax surcharge, and then what we've been doing since that time in order to make progress on delivering the sidewalk signals, service, and safety, both with NDOT and WEGO and other various metro departments. So that outlines where we are up to this point, where you'll see in October 2025, there was a $104 million capital cash drawdown. And so there's more information than in your information packet that supports more detail of that $104 million drawdown. The reason we're here before you is that we've been giving updates to council. So we had a joint council meeting a few weeks ago about the capital drawdown. We had a meeting last week with the Vision Zero Advisory Committee, and then now with the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Commission. So trying to give the same information at each of those touch points as we have kind of big milestones like this. So we just hit the 1-year anniversary of the referendum vote on November 5th. What we call now is a little bit of a valley a lot of times because everyone's excited when the referendum passes, and now everyone's looking for specific items for implementation. Our goal is to make sure you know we're working on that. It takes a bit of time for some of that capacity building to get into place. But we are making progress with the departments to ensure that we're all aligned in delivering a program that the public has entrusted us to produce. To give you a bit of perspective, and this is not to pick on any one department, but it gives you an idea of the magnitude of the amount of funding that we are starting to deal with in Metro Nashville. And it's a very generational, transformative investment. So NDOT's typical capital projects for a year on average is about $75 million that's budgeted. If you take the 15 years that the capital projects and Choose How You Move and divide that out over the 15 years, it's $206 million per year. So it's not just a little bit of an increase, but it is a tremendous transformative program that Nashvillians will experience over the next couple of decades. What that puts many of our departments and staff in a position is really trying to think through the best way to accelerate and deliver a program for a city that has been staffed and scaled really as a mid-sized city and is now being asked to be a large city based on all the growth. You've seen it over the last decade where the skyline has grown pretty tremendously, and a lot of that's been on the private sector side. And so it has felt like the growth has been happening to a lot of us. And now we are really getting back into investing in the public infrastructure that's needed to support that growth. What that means is that over the upcoming years, there will be a lot of challenges to deliver the program and a lot of difficult conversations as to how we get there. It will require construction that is on many of our corridors that have not experienced construction for many decades. So many of these streets that we are looking at improving through Choose How You Move, were widened in the 60s and 70s. They don't have the supportive sidewalk infrastructure, but we have very frequent transit service operating on them, and that's creating a lot of our safety issues that you all have rightfully brought up in addressing with the city. So it will be an issue that we'll be working with residents a lot on to ensure that there's a lot of feedback into the program and transparency as to how we're delivering that. And so we're wanting to come to you all to make sure you are also equipped with the best information as well. So that's the first page, and it gives you a QR code where you can always go back to nashville.gov/transit to find out more information. You're going to see a lot of this information change pretty substantially over the upcoming months because we've been making a lot of progress as to how we'll be delivering the program. The second page that you've got is a program snapshot. Oh, I'm sorry. We'll go to the map. That's okay. Is a map of the project. So you've got two things that support both the capital drawdown and what was announced in this fall. So there's a map here, and then just before that is one that's a program snapshot. So it talks about the $104 million drawdown. And it gives you the amounts based on sidewalk signals, service, safety, and then the all-access corridors. And so then that corresponds then with a map that you have as well that shows those categories and the geographic extent of the improvements. There's three main categories of things that are happening on the map. So you have a more accurate picture of what's happening with Choose How You Move delivery. In the bottom left-hand corner, there's the 11 foundational projects. Those are projects that were announced early this spring to kick off the Choose How You Move program. Then there's also summer 2025 WeGo service improvements. That's noted up in the legend there. So you'll see the purple lines are the service upgrades, and there's also some WeGo Link zones that are on those service changes. And then there's the $104 million capital drawdown. To briefly go through some of the types of projects then that are on the map, is one, and kind of tying through the foundational projects, is the Gallatin, Maine study between Fifth Street and Eastland. That's noted with the kind of thicker green bubble that's there. That also has some momentum with the 104 million capital drawdown. So you see that listed in both places because there's a movement in getting to 30% design, but then also looking at the broader corridor up to Briley Parkway and beginning all access corridor study improvements. Some other things that you'll notice on the map are the blue dots. Those are signal locations that are being upgraded along Nolensville Pike and Harding, also within downtown. The key thing to remember is within downtown, Choose How You Move is only funding a portion of the signal improvements. So by looking at it on a map, just with the Choose How You Move funds is not accurate at capturing all of the improvements within downtown related to signals, for example. There's also yellow corridors, so you'll see Hillsborough Pike, Nolensville, Murfreesboro, Lebanon, parts of downtown that have fiber work that are in various stages. And what I'll do is I'll leave with you all a list of the council district info based on drawdown, because we're presenting it a little bit differently when you look at the council list, and it's showing it by phases as to what phase is being funded. The purple goes back to the WEGO service improvements over the summer. You'll notice there are a couple of darker blue lines. Those are the complete streets. So that includes the Chestnut, Edge Hill area for a complete street, and then the Church Elliston Place. So that's a bit of an overview as to what you're seeing then on the map. What we need from you all is as you continue to review this information and kind of see it in different forms, is to give us feedback as to whether or not this is something that is helpful to you in understanding the program, what questions it generates for you to have so that you're better equipped to answer questions as you engage with those in the community. One final thing I want to point out is the Journey Pass program. So that is part of the initial launch of Choose How You Move this year and is being rolled out. And there's been a lot of discussion as of late, particularly related to some of the SNAP benefits that were being jeopardized through the federal government shutdown. So there's a list then of dates on the back of the one-pager where outreach is being done to ensure if you qualify for housing and nutrition assistance that you are being presented with an opportunity to partake in the Journey Pass program. What Journey Pass is that it's our largest fare-free program that we've ever had in Nashville. And so it's really trying to connect those that are in need of transportation assistance to be able to get to where they need to go. And so it's using the criteria around housing and nutrition assistance and programs through existing service partners to ensure that those most in need are able to be able to access WEGO with no barriers. So as you have questions in the community, know that that information is out there and that some of this is changing. So some of these dates, we've had to reprint the one-pagers a couple of times, may also be out of date. You can always go to the website as well. So the QR code that's on there will give you the latest information. So a few things, though, that I also want to leave is some updates on the all-access corridors, because those are going to be longer-term planning projects. And you'll see that information embedded in your materials. And so with Gallatin and Maine, we wanted to make sure you had an update on that because there's a few areas where we're beginning to have progress on. So the Gallatin Maine study had neighborhood meetings It's essentially resulted in about a 30% design being completed between 5th Street up to Eastland. When Choose How You Move passed, we took a moment to see what does that mean for this, because it's addressing a number of safety issues through the corridor, and is it an opportunity to go ahead and proceed with center or side running bus lanes. What we've determined is that it's much better to proceed forward with the safety improvements through the corridor. So you'll be seeing some of that done next year through the spring. But then there'll be additional engagement opportunities on the broader corridor going up to Briley Parkway. So what that means is that there's a conversation of where we're doing things in the interim to address more urgent issues while also continuing the discussion about the future of the corridor up to Briley.
Can we ask questions? There was a whole lot of engagement about that already. And what are you calling safety improvements that you're going to be doing?
Yeah, so it's looking at the lane striping, crossing improvements, and some of those additional safety elements. I think the pedestrian hybrid beacons are part of the design solutions there. So it's to help with some of the crossings in that area.
So what was at one time, I think it included a dedicated bus lane, as well as
Correct.
new sidewalks and
Correct.
bike lanes.
Correct.
All of that has been put on hold.
So we need to look at the whole corridor going up to Briley Parkway to make sure it integrates all the way up to the north while also connecting in over on the east bank as well. Also on Gallatin Pike, there's a section north up near Rivergate Mall that's between Alta Loma and the Rivergate Walmart. And that continues to go through the TDOT local programs process with other grant funds. And so that has side running bus lanes and crossing improvements. And so there's sort of two ends that are happening at the same time where we're also studying the all access corridor components between 5th and Briley Parkway. On the Nolensville corridor, there's the Safe Streets for All grant that's continuing to move forward as interim steps. So that's being done with NDOT, and the pre-project development will now start with the Choose How You Move funds. And so that will lead to full planning and design of the all-access corridor components. So the reason I'm giving you updates on Maine and Gallatin and then on Nolensville is that as part of the $104 million capital drawdown, which was cash, it is helping us plan out the all-access corridors. So that is going to be a longer process of 5 to 10 years to complete, while we also do the shorter-term interim safety improvements. So I wanted to make sure we're establishing expectations around some of these components are moving forward with other funding while we continue to do the planning process. What that does is also helps us leverage back federal funding to maximize the local investment here to complete those improvements. Two other corridors that I briefly want to mention that are all access corridors. The third one is West End. So the West End bus lane pilot's moving forward with additional funding. That was in the 104 capital drawdown for additional engagement and implementation. And so that's looking at the area between 17th and 25th Avenues. And then also talking about kind of these components between Maine and Nolensville and then West End, we're looking at what we're calling the hook, which involves downtown James Robertson Parkway. It looks kind of like a backwards coat hanger or hook that needs to be connected. And so that is a critical component to really making all of the transit improvements work within the system, connecting 3 transit centers. And so we'll likely have more details to share as to how that aligns and eventually how there's additional capital and debt to incur in order to make those improvements. So that's the big update. All of that is in the information that you have, but want to be sure you've got the same information that was reviewed with the council committees, with Vision Zero committee, and now with you all, and presenting it in different ways. And I think what was really valuable to us is as you review this information, what types of feedback and questions do you have in order to make sure this information is transparent, we're being held accountable, and as you talk to your neighbors, what kinds of questions do they have to help us improve on delivering the program?
I assume you're getting feedback from actual bus riders?
Yes, yeah,
I mean,
of course.
My most notable bus experience was riding the Murfreesboro Pike bus outbound during rush hour. And it was crowded almost, it was beyond standing room only. And I would want to make sure that those users are able to safely get from from where they got off the bus to their homes. And I don't know if neighborhood buses are practical or used. I just throw that out there.
Yeah, so in Murfreesboro, there's actually some things identified in Choose How You Move to help both short and long term. So long term is that it's identified as an all access corridor. So looking at making sure sidewalks are filled in along the corridor, that the signals are upgraded, working together into the traffic management center. Some of that has happened, but it's not been extended, for example, up to the airport in Donaldson Pike. In some instances, there's dedicated transit lanes through there, and then there's always opportunities to improve safety with crossing improvements and upgrading the entire street. That's long term, coming up with that solution. In the short term, there's been some frequency improvements that have happened on the weekend related to transit service. We're also looking as part of the capital drawdown. I think it's a red bus icon that's at the airport. So it's beginning to look at service improvements and is likely involving Route 55 on Murfreesboro to where there would be more frequent service going directly down Murfreesboro Road and up to the airport that would alternate with the other 55 route that continues on to Global Mall in Antioch.
How are you planning to staff up for all of this? I assume that'll all be in the next budget.
Well, I think that's just going to take some time. In terms of, we have talent that is already here in Nashville that sort of sometimes gets pulled into either other organizations or over to the private side. So we're really focusing on making sure in some areas of that talent pool that others are aware of what's happening in Nashville and that there's opportunities here because this is not happening in most cities across the U.S. So Nashville and Columbus were very unique last fall in passing such transformative programs. And people are looking to Nashville to deliver on this. So as we travel about, have conversations with others in peer cities or where they've done this before or where they're frankly having a lot of services being pulled back. So you're seeing that in places like Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, and Chicago, saying we're growing and we need you to come here. And so we're repeating that over and over. We've only got a small snapshot in terms of what we do with some of our peers. There's also this issue along the whole project delivery pipeline all the way up to construction that we will continue to confront and have been having conversations with partners as to how labor force really begins to ramp up. Because we're not only competing with private development that is doing a lot of building still to this day. TDOT has a big program that they're delivering on, and then Choose How You Move has a big program as well.
So you don't have any plans? I mean, you don't, in the next budget, you're not going to ask for 20 or 40 or 100
I
people?
mean, I can't give you an exact number right
Okay.
now.
Well,
I'll just
that's-
say we are very much aware of this issue and are trying to come up with what would be the best approach to do this. Some of it has been, has to rely on consultants to deliver. Some of it's building in-house expertise and capacity over time, but a lot of it's not immediately flipping a switch and folks being here. It's ramping it up over time.
Michael, I just have a question on the finances. I think you led by saying, order of magnitude, the funds that are being raised, presumably as a function of that 0.5% sales tax increase, works out to about $200 million a year. I forget the exact number, but it was 210 you said. Is that right?
I actually don't know that I gave a number. So,
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't give a number.
There was some
But that sounds about right. I don't want to say that that's good.
maybe it was just a really good guess of mine, but I thought I heard something that was about 200.
I could tell you we've had about 14 million per month coming in.
Okay.
And I believe we're at about 96 million between when the tax started to believe it's September timeframe.
Okay. So I guess my question was around how do I reconcile that with the 104 million drawdown? I guess what in sort of layman speak, what does that drawdown mean, and how do we get 104 versus 200?
Yeah, so Metro Finance would be the much better person to answer this, but essentially what that is forecasting what would happen over the next few months in order to generate then the drawdown on the capital budget. This is all cash that they are able to do, which is kind of a one-time opportunity. When we get to next year, you're likely to see a capital and an operating discussion at the same time. And as part of that capital discussion, there's likely to be debt incurred at that time. So what that'll help us do is help do the bigger projects and fund them over longer periods of time. What we're doing right now is trying to deliver on a lot of the quick wins that can be done by injecting some cash funding into projects that are already planned both by WEGO and NDOT.
Just to clarify, Michael, is the Choose How You Move budget additive to our existing budget for sidewalks and bikeways? We should not see a decrease in those budgets with this additional funding.
So I cannot guarantee what the Metro Council will ever do from year to year with the budget. So different councils could come up with a different way of addressing this. But Choose How You Move is intended to be on top of those existing programs that are funded. I will say that's particularly important for WEGO because their service continues to be funded through regular allocations by the Metro Council. And so having this on top of what they're able to do helps deliver the program over the life of the program. So to say it another way, it is never intended for there to be a discussion of here's Choose How You Move funding, sidewalks can go get Choose How You Move funding, and we reallocate sidewalks to something else.
I wanted to ask about the whole, I'm not a transit expert, obviously, the whole first mile, last mile thing. I assume that's what the sidewalks are for. Or sidewalks, let's say down Murfreesboro Road, are they going to be improved? Or are you looking to branch off of the road so people can walk to the bus stop? What exactly are in those plans?
Yeah, so state law requires us to spend the program funds related to transit operations and service. So all of Choose How You Move is focused on transit corridors where there is service today or anticipated to be in the future. So that's kind of the first criteria. Then Based on that, it's going back and looking at a lot of the great planning work that NDOT and WEGO have done to identify where, for example, if there's Vision Zero opportunities with the high injury network, where there's service expansions being planned through the Better Bus program, and kind of overlaying all of that information. So a lot of that was done last spring in order to come up with the Choose How You Move program. So what it resulted in was 86 miles of sidewalk that are identified for program delivery. Much of that sidewalk work is on those main pikes. So it's along Gallatin, Murfreesboro, Nolensville, where we have ditches. It's actually rebuilding the street really for a modern city. But then there are particular kind of key segments that connect into a lot of that more frequent service where you see the sidewalks identified. So you'll see small segments off of a lot of those pikes or off where there is transit service today. So you'll see on the map, and it's the little red segments. They don't look very long, but they're the little red segments. Like if you look at Murfreesboro off the purple line, those are some of the specific sidewalk projects being funded. Now, keep in mind that that purple line that's on there with the service improvements, there's sidewalks that would be filled in as part of the All Access Corridor project.
Because I guess what I'm asking is how my street does not have a sidewalk. You're probably not going to put one in. I could walk one block to a collector street. For instance, every collector street going to have a sidewalk at some point?
No, you will never hear me say that every collector street will have a sidewalk, because I don't know that we would probably get to every arterial street having a sidewalk in Nashville.
Sure, which should come first, obviously.
Yeah.
So you're promising to get the light poles out of the sidewalks on Gallatin Road?
We will do our best in coordinating with utilities.
I have a question. Are there any plans on the corridor? I'm thinking Hillsborough Pike between Woodlawn and Green Hills Mall. There's no sidewalks anywhere there.
So with Choose How You Move, there are not sidewalk projects that are identified for this funding. So rely on other sources in order to complete that work. There's other things with Choose How You Move that are a part of the funding. So where you see on the screen with the yellow tag, that's actually a fiber, I believe it's a fiber design that is being done with Metro ITS. So it'd be getting the signals tied into the traffic management center over time to operate better. There are service improvements that are part of Choose How You Move along Hillsborough Pike, and some of that is extending it down to Burton Hills.
Okay.
If there are no other questions, I'm happy to continue to take questions offline. So you all know how to get a hold of me or to get a hold of the team. I am really interested in feedback as to how we present this type of information, what's useful. As you talk to your neighbors, what questions do they have? I can't promise that we're going to be able to answer everything satisfactorily in a meeting, but what we will do is help track down answers to questions that you have. And then we also want to use this as opportunities to really shape how we're engaging on these projects and on the program as a whole, so that there's really a clear understanding of what is being delivered over time. And I think it's going to get really complicated as we think about this funding source and we think of other funding within the city. And so you've got a snapshot right now of just the Choose How You Move funding. And I think we're open to kind of helping connect pieces together and help understand that as well. Also, I want to be sure and make sure you know that WEGO and NDOT, planning, Metro ITS, water, MNPD, legal, I know I've left someone off, have all been involved in conversations on this. And so it's really being approached as an institutional delivery for this program. And so you have a lot of resources, not only within the Choose How You Move team, but also within those departments. And so Derek Haggerty's team, Debbie Frank and Amanda Vandegrift at WEGO, along with Steve and Diana, are all working together to help deliver this program.
Thanks, Michael. Just one more quick question, sorry, going back to the Maine and Gallatin plans for a second. And I went to a lot of the engagement meetings on this, and we had at least a couple presentations last year from, I think, the planning team, and there were like 2 well-defined concepts with bus lanes and different configurations, and it sounded like the plan at that point was to move into construction in like 2025, 26. I'm just trying to kind of understand why that is now sort of on hold from what you were saying.
Yeah, so again, just to look at how the Choose How You Move funding will help deliver a broader project up to Briley Parkway. So the study just focused from Eastland down to Interstate Drive. It started out as a Vision Zero project. And so we want to make sure the safety elements are put in and done quicker than waiting on the longer improvements. So what we have an opportunity is to make sure this segment up to Eastland continues to carry forward similar design all the way up to Briley Parkway. We're going to be getting together as a team to make sure we go back out to the community and help address those questions that we have, because we know the community spent time investing in the design there. And we want to assure that we're ready to act on some short-term safety improvements, get those completed, and then continue the conversation on the corridor a little bit further north.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so our next presentation is an update on the Ascend Greenway design.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for having me. My name is Sam Reed. I'm here representing Ryman Hospitality. I've got Kevin Crumley with me with Barge. And we're here to talk to you about, thanks, Brandon, again, for inviting us. Talk about an exciting project that we've been working on for quite some time that we're excited to share with this group. And I think I've talked to at least a couple of you about this before, and a lot of the advocates who are in the room. But just a point of privilege quickly, it feels like a real bike ped day for me. I was actually just down at the Ryman Auditorium, and we've just laid down our very, one of the first, at least downtown, decorative crosswalks. I encourage you to go check that out. Thank you for your leadership, Diana, in making that all happen. You'll see some pictures circulating that on socials, I think, today. So we're pretty excited about it. But what I'm here to talk about today is the Ascend Amphitheater Elevated Greenway. And a little bit of background, then I'm going to turn it over to Kevin to do some of the particulars. But this image up here shows you sort of the problem that we're aiming to address. So back well over a year ago, about August, September of 24, I think as you all know, Ascend was built probably about 10, 12 years ago. It was under management by another company for the first 10 years of its operation. The city put out an RFP for the next sort of 10 years of operation. And Ryman Hospitality was one of several bidders on that project. I think from the very beginning, the company's view was, how can we sort of differentiate ourselves? What could we do better than the way that things are operating there today? And one of the glaring things that I think stuck out to us that we talked to, a lot of the folks in this room, a lot of policymakers about was the greenway access or lack thereof, the way that the current setup of Ascend is. And as you can see from that image, if you're familiar with the design there of the amphitheater, it was sort of always originally envisioned as to be part of the greenway system, and that the sort of eastern side of the amphitheater that runs along the river would be a connected greenway. And when the amphitheater went into operation for really what was essentially 35 concert nights a year, the amphitheater essentially erected the exterior fence, and the greenway portion was in the interior of the venue. And for security and other reasons, it essentially remained closed throughout the first 10 years of operation of Ascend. And so when we made our RFP response, one of the things that we really thought was important was to address this issue and to fix it permanently once and for all. When we knew that this was something that was going to be important and part of the RFP, myself and several others from Ryman engaged with, like I said, a lot of folks in this room, including Walk Bike Nashville, to just sort of hear what the community would like to see here. And I think it became pretty clear to us, like early on, that we really needed to solve this as sort of a 24/7 solution. And if you've been out there and walked that side of the venue, which you really can't do today, what we realized is we needed to do something pretty bold. And so what we proposed to the city was an elevated greenway. This is sort of in addition to the $12 million worth of interior Ascend upgrades. We're going to spend on behalf of just totally costs borne by Ryman, up to $1.1 million on this new elevated greenway that we will then hand over to the city. And that's essentially where the greenway is going to go. We're still finalizing a few tweaks on designs. We've had to talk to the railroad company, and we've had to talk to the National Tree Foundation and the city arborist and many, many others, parks, of course, and everybody, I think, is really excited about what we're proposing. But just to give you some idea, we don't actually get control of the venue until January, but we're going to begin this work as soon as next month on this, and our goal will be to have this, I'm not going to hold Kevin to this, but our goal is to have this done in time for the new concert season, which begins in April. And, we'll be obviously doing other interior upgrades, but our real focus initially will be on getting this greenway connection completed. And so, you'll be able to come under from Peabody Place underneath James Robertson Parkway, and rather than having to veer all the way around the venue, you'll be able to enjoy this new elevated greenway, which Kevin's going to share some more details with you about, and then we'll take some questions.
Thank you, Sam. Yeah, so this is the greenway, or do you mind to go back once? Can y'all hear me? All right. Thank you. My name's Kevin Crumlin with Barge, and so the slide you see here is the elevated path that we're trying to take, and it there's been a lot of challenges that Sam described that we've had to go through just to land on this solution. There's been easements, there's existing features like bioretention, environmental features. There's been TVA power poles. We're trying to really weave this thing in and out in order to preserve a lot of the park's existing character that's there today, and then also just be really sensitive to what we're doing, but ultimately with the objective of providing that connectivity is the goal. Especially as you can see by the first slide, that connectivity doesn't exist today. When concerts are happening, then I'd even say even like 24 hours before a concert would actually begin, that's when the park actually began closing down. So, having this connectivity would be, is going to be great. If you want to go to the next slide.
You're promising it'll be 24/7, open 24/7?
That's the plan, yes.
Okay. Because most of us probably have been stopped at least once during, and like you say, a day before a concert.
That's right. Yeah, that's when that's the old schematics showed them basically closing down bits
Yep.
and pieces of the park.
But of course, they had a detour.
Yeah. You're fine. So, and this is kind of the general arrangement of the new design here. We're going to provide landscaping and replenish, with more than enough trees than what we're taking out to, to provide park safety and, trying to create a screen and a separation between the trail and the park or the Ascend Park itself. But the bridge itself is going to be about 640 feet long, so it's not a small bridge. The tallest part of it, when it transverses about mid-span there, is probably about 25 feet in the air. So it's going to be a large structure, and then the elevation change, it goes from the top part on your right part of the screen down to the bottom. It's a constant grade. It's going to be ADA. It's going to be about 4.5%. So there won't be any concerns there. And like I said, we're just trying to make sure that we're being sensitive to the pieces and parts that are already there, like fire retention, the plantings, and just trying to preserve as much as we can, but also provide this connectivity to the park.
Kevin, sorry, hey, sorry. Are you the contractor?
I'm not. We're the design, civil.
Okay, design. Yeah. I was gonna say, you should, only $1 million. You guys are good at this, right? It costs like $1 million to get a square of sidewalk in this city. I'm only sort of half joking, but that's,
We're not the bridge contractor. So.
yeah. Oh, I see. So that's gonna cost a heck of a lot more than $1 million.
Well, Sam can talk a little bit more probably about the financials, but I think the goal is the all-in budget's what,
1.1 for the
1.1.
bridge. Yeah, we've spec'd it out pretty good. We feel pretty confident about that. We've used this company. It's actually a company out of Florida who's done a lot of work at our hotels on elevated walkways, and we feel very confident in their ability to deliver.
They've done other bridges across the state of Tennessee too.
How wide will it be, and will there be any separation between pedestrians and bike riders?
So we met with some of the Greenways folks, and it's going to be the 12-foot clear from side to side. So there should be ample room, for.
That's not necessarily the only people you should meet with.
Excuse me?
I said that's not necessarily the only people you should meet with about those kind of issues.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we're here to take feedback, so we'll certainly take that under advisement.
Well, I can't speak for anybody else, but during a concert, or actually anytime there's a crowd there, the sidewalk and the bike lane that are in front of Ascend, there's no separation except some green paint. And you might as well get off and ride a bike, which, is not the worst thing in the world, but it would be nice if that kind of had enough room or some kind of separation between different kinds of users.
Sure. Okay.
And you say the maximum grade will be 4.5%?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this won't be comparable to the Siegenthaler pedestrian bridge, which is quite steep on both sides.
Which bridge? I'm
Siegenthaler pedestrian bridge?
not familiar.
Okay. It's steep.
It was built 100 years ago. That's no ADA.
That's the bridge that goes KVB over to the stadium, the walking bridge over there. You know that.
Oh, yes. Yep. I'm tracking.
I have a question. What is the material is going to be? Is it wood planks, or we're looking at concrete?
It's going to be wood, built out of wood, yeah. So we have some pictures on this slide right here.
Kind of the middle picture?
It's gonna be kind of the bottom picture without the top.
Okay, not covered.
Best way to describe it, yeah.
And then will there be distinct way so that the people using that bridge will not be able to, I guess, enjoy the concert for free? As far as them not being able to see what's going on there, because I could see that being, very crowded on concert night, and people like, oh, well, I can still, I mean, you're gonna be able to hear it, but will you have a point of view from there?
Well, that has, entered into the conversation and realm of design here. And part of the green landscaping you see up there at the top, which is the high point where you probably would have a vantage point into the Ascend. Amphitheater is going to be heavily screened, and not only that, not only from a viewing standpoint, but from a safety standpoint, just so, because there is going to be an elevation difference there, and we want to make sure that safety measures are there as well. But the idea is to prevent that, for somebody getting, I guess, a free concert. But that's going to involve more than just those measures right there. I think in downtown, in partnership with, downtown Nashville and just, making sure that area is safe.
Yeah, I mean, you see that today, right? I mean, folks hanging out around the back watching the show or standing, I mean, we expect that to happen. We will have to monitor that, and we certainly don't have any issues if folks stand outside wanting to listen, but we certainly don't want it to become a safety problem if there are hundreds of people gathering on the bridge, but we'll monitor that.
Now, I want to make sure the part that you're not constructing, the existing greenway will remain open to go under, if you're coming down KVB and you want to go under the bridge up to Rolling Mill Hill, that's going to be open 24/7 too. Okay.
Yes.
Well, when Sam asked me about it, that was my advice. I know nothing about design. I said, just keep it open. That's all I wanted. Good question. I don't know. Was the sidewalk from the Ascend to the street to First? Is that First, I guess? Is that under your control, or will that still be NDOT territory?
No, what's under our control is in yellow, right? And I mean, the bridge will ultimately be handed back over to Metro once we're completed with construction. So yeah, all of the areas outside of the yellow, we do not control. But it's a good question, Carrie. I'll check. I mean, there's a pretty good amount of distance there between that underpass and where we will be doing any construction. I would fully anticipate that would be open the entire time.
I have limited experience with it, but I think it's more likely that people will walk or bike down KVB than around to the back of it. Again. I was asked to ask you a question totally off the subject here, not totally off the subject. But as you may know, there's been a greenway planned out from Two Rivers Park, the bridge across the Cumberland there, to Opry Mills for over 10 years. And it's probably never going to be built, quite frankly. Huh?
It'll be built.
No, it won't.
It will.
No, it won't, John.
I make that up.
Well, we'll both be dead by the time it's built. Sorry, I'll speak for myself. Is there any possibility the city could talk to, you're part of Gaylord, right? To work something else out that the city would pay for, but that might achieve the same purpose? Is that something that would be in the realm of possibility? I know it's probably.
Honestly, I have not, that's not an issue I'm up to speed or really prepared to give any answers on. I mean, I am aware that there's
Good.
rights that were granted
Right.
many years ago from.
The thing is, it's literally, it was before Jeff was councilman. I forget who the councilman was before Jeff, but that's back when the deal was made for the whole water park thing.
Correct.
That's when
right.
it happened.
That's right.
And that's why I'm saying it, I mean, it hasn't been built in that time and the cost has gone up. The last number I heard was like 17 million or something. So I was just wondering if there's some alternative that, you know, that y'all could work out with the city. And I realize you can't answer today, but if you could just check that out, see
Okay.
if there are any possibilities.
Okay, I'll find that out. Yeah, you're correct. I'm recalling that was part of, we gave the rights or a piece of land to enable Metro to be able to do it, but yeah, I have.
I don't know that anybody thought at the time exactly how much it would cost.
Mine's more of a comment than a question, but my many years at the chamber, I just have to give you thanks because this is not something a private company has to do. This is something that y'all are choosing to do, similar to Shurian doing the Greenway in front of their office. So just thank you for doing this. I was at the Greenway's dinner and saw the new Greenway just up the way that Hensler did at Peabody Union, and it is, if y'all haven't seen it, it is quite remarkable. Looks like a completely different city when you're over there. So I know this is going to connect into that. So we know you didn't have to do this as a company, and we just really appreciate the investment in that area. It's going to be great. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Just to sort of put a bow on that, if you don't mind, I think if you think about Ryman as a company and the sort of institutions that we are stewards of, it's the way, the folks in leadership like to talk about it. We've got our 100th anniversary of the Opry this year. We're 130 years in at the Ryman. This is a city-owned venue, right? This is it's one of my favorite venues as a frequent concert goer of its size anywhere in the country. And I think we view this the same way, right? We see this as a really important city asset that we will take every level of care that we do with the Opry and the Ryman and our other assets. We'll, make sure that we're doing right by the city. And if we don't, you know we're right here in your backyard. You know who to call. Yes.
Some people think he does control the city.
All right, thank you guys so much.
Thank you all. Thanks, Brett.
Appreciate it. Thank y'all for coming. All right, next up is Melissa Hayes with an update on the All Access Management Manual. Access Management Manual.
You can use there, you can sit here, wherever you want to go.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for your time. I'm Melissa Hayes. I'm a traffic and sustainability engineer at NDOT, and I am the project manager of this access management manual that we've been working on over the last 2 years. I'm here today with Meredith.
Thanks. Hi, I'm Meredith King. I work for Arcadis, and I've been embedded at NDOT for the past year in the developer services group as well as Vision Zero, working on several different safety projects, including this access management manual.
So today we just wanted to share with you this project that we are creating, this access management manual for the city. We'll go over a quick overview, our goals, the purpose of this project, the best practices and peer city review summary that we have incorporated into this manual, our proposed code changes, and our project next steps. Just as a summary of all of the stakeholders we have involved throughout the process of this project, we've involved a lot of different departments from Metro Nashville as well as external stakeholders to gather feedback and just make sure everyone is as informed as they can be. And to kick this off, just a little summary of what access management is. It is the coordination of planning, regulation, and design of access between driveways and land developments. The benefits of proper access management include reduced conflicts between all road users, increased roadway capacities, reduced travel times and delays, and increased property values. So the reason for this project to create an access management manual for NDOT and the city, there's a few challenges summarized here into 3 categories that we had. One big thing was that the regulations and requirements for access and driveway in Nashville are located in 2 different chapters in the code, and those requirements, some of them are conflicting with each other. So it's very confusing for both Metro staff and developers and anyone else who needs those requirements. The second thing is we do have TDOT's manuals for access management. However, they focus on the highest classified roads, so freeways, interstates, those kinds of roadways. So we're kind of lacking that context for urban and downtown areas, which we want to fill that gap of knowledge and information. And then finally, and most importantly, we did not feel that Vision Zero and safety were prioritized with the current access management requirements and guidance, so we wanted to change that. So we want to make sure that this access management manual that we create is comprehensive and consolidates everything into one location, one document, so it's very easy to find where requirements are located and guidance as well for design. We want to make sure all transportation plans in Metro Nashville and TDOT are all in alignment, which that isn't currently occurring. And of course, to increase safety by reducing conflict points, reducing those really close spaced driveways, and reducing the amount of driveways on the higher classified roads like our arterials and collectors. And just to highlight, this is one of the strategies in the Vision Zero action plan to adopt a context-sensitive access management policy. This is a shortened summary of the table of contents just to give you an idea of what is in this manual. We have, at the very beginning of the manual, a summary chapter that has all of the access requirements from throughout the manual itself, just in the one chapter, so it's easy to find right away. We have an introduction, of course. We split up access design and access location just to make sure everything is very detailed for everyone. We also incorporated a multimodal and downtown chapter for access specifically. We split that into each road user, bicycle, pedestrian, transit, and then we also have a section for downtown specific driveways. And then we close out the manual with an administration and implementation chapter that talks about driveway permitting and an access waiver form, which we have added that wasn't previously a thing that we were doing at NDOT. So I'm going to pass it to Meredith to talk about all of the best practices in Peer City Review that we have implemented into this manual.
Thanks, Melissa. So we developed this manual by reviewing several different peer departments and cities, the guidelines they have in those areas, as well as industry best practices from widely recognized sources like TRB, AASHTO, various NCHRP reports that are included in several of the peer cities that we looked at. And then we also looked at the existing landscape of access management policy in Metro Nashville. We looked at what TDOT's policy currently is in their highway system access manual. And then we looked at other local Tennessee policies in Knoxville and Murfreesboro. So we looked at all of that data to come up with several different best practices to include in the manual. The manual covers a lot of ground, but today I will just go over some of the top highlighted best practices that we have incorporated. So the first one is avoiding access in the intersection functional area and access conflict area. This is the area of the immediate intersection as well as the surrounding turn lanes that allow the intersection to operate safely and efficiently. So we want to avoid access in these distances to avoid additional conflict points. A next best practice that we've incorporated throughout the manual is managing the spacing between the access points. So this is where we have adjusted and updated the spacing standards that we currently have to be more safety focused and more in line with the best practices that we've seen across the industry. So we've updated the access to access or the driveway to driveway spacing, also the access to intersection spacing, which is also corner clearance, access to interchange ramp spacing, access to roundabout spacing, access to railroad spacing, and access near multimodal facilities. So we've updated all of these to be a safer distance, to avoid conflicts, and provide better access management. Another best practice, and part of why we have updated our safety standards, is to avoid access on higher functional classifications of roadway. So roads are classified by the level of access and mobility that they provide. So we want to prioritize access on those lower speed, lower volume roads, like local streets and collectors. We want to avoid access on arterial parkways, arterial boulevards where possible. And so this is reflected in our new spacing standards that we are prioritizing these access on lower functional classifications of road. Another best practice is utilizing shared and cross access where we can. So where it is applicable to do so, neighboring parcels can provide shared access or cross access easements in order to consolidate access points and reduce conflict points. Another best practice is restricted access design. Again, this is where it is applicable to do so. So especially in areas where there is a center median in the roadway, you can use driveway channelization, such as a right-in, right-out, to restrict dangerous left turning movements and provide a safer access point.
Could I ask a question?
Sure.
Is this the kind of thing developers are going to have to look at
Yes.
when they go to planning?
Yes,
Okay.
they will.
Okay, that's the whole point of this, I guess.
Yes. Another best practice we've included is driveway spacing for best practice from PHBs and RRFBs. So these high pedestrian volume areas, we want to provide ample distance from driveways to avoid conflict between pedestrians and drivers. So we have referenced the MUTCD to find guidance that is suggested for that spacing. We've also included some solutions for pedestrians at garage accesses. So garages are going to be in your urban areas with a high pedestrian volume. So we want to include enough warning devices to make sure to alert both drivers and pedestrians of any upcoming conflicts. So solutions such as electronic signage and audible alarms, convex mirrors, and detectable warning surfaces can all provide a better access solution for those pedestrian and vehicle conflicts at garages. Another one here is for bicyclists. So where a driveway crosses a bike lane, we want to provide some additional measures to make sure it's a safe crossing. So green pavement markings and vegetative buffers can provide a visual cue for both the bicyclists and the drivers using the driveway that there is a conflict zone there so that they will be more alert. And then the vegetative buffers also provide that additional safety as they're separated from the travel way. And then where there's a restricted access, like a right-in, right-out, you can also use those colored buffers to provide that visual cue. And then for transit, we want to avoid driveway placement near bus stops and also avoid driveway placement on transit priority corridors. And this is done a lot of times through our other best practice of prioritizing access on lower functional roads like alleys and side streets, which are less likely to have transit vehicles going through. And so we have built flexibility into this manual, as access management is not one size fits all. And so we have included a waiver process. The waiver would need to be submitted before any official plans are submitted so that NDOT has time to review the access configuration that's being proposed. So the developer would submit a summary of their development with the review of their access and the trip generation, review of the multimodal facilities in the area, safety review, so they would look at the history of crashes along their property frontage to the nearest intersection. They would compare what we are requiring in the manual to what they are proposing so we can see how it differs. They'll also have to provide that engineering justification for why they can't meet the requirements and why their solution is still appropriate and safe. Some supporting documentation, and then we'll have a response page so NDOT can respond to this waiver. So that was just a high-level summary of what we've included. There's a lot more in the manual, and I will pass it off to Melissa to go through the code changes.
Thanks, Meredith. So, like I mentioned at the beginning, currently in the code, Chapter 13 and 17 both mention access driveway requirements. These requirements conflict with each other for some of them. Some of them are more restrictive than others. Some of them are really confusing phrasing. So we wanted to make sure everything was just consolidated and made very clear what requirements are what. And by creating this access management manual, we're putting all the requirements in this manual, and we are proposing to strike all of the access requirements that are currently in the code and place an authorizing statement in place of it saying that the access management manual now holds all of the requirements. We also updated any references of Metro Public Works to NDOT. There were also a few things in Chapter 13 and 17, like parking requirements that were repeating in the chapters and or conflicting again, so we have also proposed to fix that. So it's all in alignment and not conflicting anymore, and we just went with the more restrictive requirements that were in place in the code. We weren't changing any of that stuff. There was also loading requirements. We just shifted those all to 17, so they weren't in two different chapters. And then we added into the code the access requirement waiver process. So that's official. And then there's also a place in Chapter 13 that talks about appeals of driveway requirements. We didn't change that process. We just incorporated the access waiver form into the process. Currently, the process is if NDOT denies a driveway, the applicant can take their request to Traffic and Parking Commission for an appeal. They will still do that, but they'll have to attach the filled out access waiver form from NDOT. And yeah, that's the summary of that. Next steps with this project, we're just awaiting legislation approvals. And then once everything's approved, we can release the full draft manual is already released, but we can release it as the official final manual. And that's our project timeline there shown. We started this project in February 2024, and we're just currently in the legislative process now. And if you would like to see the full draft manual, it is on our project webpage. You can follow the QR code to find that. Our best practice and peer city review is also there, FAQ page. My contact info is on there if you want to ask questions that are more detailed maybe for later. That might require more time to give a big response if you have any. But yeah, if anything, we can answer questions now as well if there's time.
I assume you were talking about the appeal for the, what do we call it, the waiver.
Mm-hmm.
Is traffic and parking going to have the same kind of authority they do now? Will they be involved?
With the appeals process, yes.
They'll be the
We didn't
ones.
change that.
Okay.
There has to be, this was just the legal way of, like if NDOT denies something, there's a backup way to make sure someone else is also looking at this. Yeah. Well, if there aren't any other questions, we can end this, but feel free to email if anything comes up, and definitely check out the manual if you're interested.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right, final presentation is from Megan Matheson about the bike share RFP.
Okay, hello. Hi, everyone. Megan Matson, the TDM administrator.
TD Schlafer and Transportation Licensing Division. We're here for a docked bike share RFP update. We did provide a couple of additional dates from your last timeline that we gave you the last time we were here. Our update is brief. The contract is still being negotiated by Metro Legal and the Mayor's Office. And that's the update we have you for this evening. Do we have any questions?
I think we have a couple of slides.
I guess there's no projected end date.
I don't have a
I
date
know.
certain to give you.
I just point out this has been almost 2 years. So I won't say any more about that. If there is ever a contract for the company, well, they'll be treated legally, they'll be treated, and operationally, they'll be treated just the same as bird, spin, and lime, correct?
They would be an SUMD under 1262 of the Metro
Okay.
Code.
And as you should know, that contract is ending next year. So you'll be going through a similar process for that. Okay. Now, since BTS, which is the company that won the bid, and turned down the first opportunity at a contract, which is what lengthened this partially, will they have fees to pay like the other companies?
My understanding would be that the SUMD rules in place for bird, lime, and spin would apply also to.
Would you tell us what those fees are?
There's a $10,000 annual fee that they pay, and then they pay $141 per SUMD based on their deployment.
Per year?
Per year per SUMD. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
And I think right now B-Cycle's got, I don't know, a couple hundred bikes, do you know, approximately? Fewer bikes than they had 10 years ago. But I don't know, do you know where we're at with scooters and bikes, what number we've got?
About 700 scooters per company. Lime has 750. As of yesterday, I think I saw 150 e-bikes each from Lime, or Bird and Spin. Lime has over 300 now.
Okay, so we may be, with BTS, B-Cycle, there may be up to 3,000 vehicles approximately, times $141 a year, which is, I can't calculate, but that's a lot of money. Yeah. And so, Mr. Schultz, if you could find out where that money, how much we've collected and how it's been spent, could you find that out for the commission? Ask your finance people what they're doing with it. No, he's not an accountant. So I don't want to make more work for Mr. Slafer or Ms. Madison.
I do dutifully
Collect it.
collect it and deposit it into the Metro General Fund.
Yeah, check and see, make sure he's depositing it.
I've got receipts.
No, seriously, because it never occurred to me, I mean, I knew we were collecting fees from them, but it never occurred to me exactly how much until I started looking at your little fee study. And then I got to thinking, oh, that could be a lot of money, and it is. So I'd like to know how much we've collected and how it's been spent. Maybe we can give Mr. Schlafer and Ms. Matheson a raise out of it. You think that's warranted?
My boss is sitting behind me.
I know, that's who I'm saying it for.
Yeah.
And I guess I should ask, I know you or somebody added a station at the Shelby Park Community Center, right? Recently. So I assume there'll be more of that if and when there's a contract.
Yeah, if I recollect correctly from their proposal, we're going to go up to 150 stations over a 10-year period.
A 10-year period, okay. And I was going to ask this at a different time, but I'll ask today, I'll warn you. I want to know what they're going to do next year and the year after that and the year after that. Is that part of the contract? Sets goals?
Yeah, there's a percentage increase built in there.
Okay.
I believe is it 10% a year?
Okay.
That they must increase.
And the revenue stream that they're going to develop, are they paying the total cost for each new station?
Through their sponsorship in the proposal.
They're responsible for it.
That's correct, yeah. There's no Metro subsidy included here. If there's no further questions, we will say goodnight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. All right, 2 quick items to vote on. The first is our Walk Month proclamation from October. So retroactively voting on that one. Thank you, Commissioners Garner and Haney, for putting this together for us. Any comments or discussion, or do you have a motion to approve?
I move we approve it. Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? All right, Walk Month Proclamation is approved. And our second statement is a statement in support of the Commerce Bikeway redesign plans that we were presented in our September 15th BPAC meeting. I can read it briefly and then we can vote on it. We also discussed this in our subcommittee meeting prior to this meeting. Commerce Street has long been recognized as a critical connection in our bikeway network, is identified as a priority bikeway in the walk and bike plan as a phase 1 upgrade and connect downtown as well. In its current form, it is unsafe and unfinished with inadequate protection. BPAC supports NDOT's proposal to upgrade the current two-way cycle track to a robust concrete protected bikeway that is safe for all ages and abilities. We appreciate the presentation of the preliminary designs for this bikeway at our September 15th meeting and put forth the following recommendations. We strongly recommend the use of concrete protection rather than flexible delineators, as the success and safety of this bikeway depend on the quality of its protection. We also recommend that this physical protection extend from 9th Avenue to 2nd Avenue with the use of parking protected arrangements as indicated to maintain protection and separation from vehicular traffic. We would advise against leaving the segment between 2nd and 4th unprotected, as this will lead to illegal parking and conflicts with motorized vehicles. We also request that BPAC remain involved in the decision-making throughout this process and ask that any design changes and revisions be discussed with this commission.
What do we do with this?
I have some intended recipients, which would be NDOT leadership, the mayor, the Choose How You Move team, and the council member for the district. Open to other suggestions.
Do you need a motion?
We need a motion.
I move that the, what you just read be circulated as you just mentioned.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, it has been approved. Thank you, guys. Any updates from Brent?
I just want to let the commissioners know that I've been in contact with our staff that do the MAC permits. We had a question from Commissioner Rogers about Stockyard and 2nd Avenue, and I should, hopefully tomorrow I'll be able to send you out something from Annis. There's some changes going on over there. I think he sent an email out tonight, but let me get with him tomorrow and I'll get you a proper response on what's going on over there. And Commissioner Rogers, I did talk to Annis. He says he will meet us out there on bikes, but he says I have to bring in a bike for him. So I have an extra bike. I'll bring it in and we'll meet you. I want to go out there and see it, so.
And that's what you have to do. I mean, to understand what the failings of the detour are. You may remember back in the spring, we had a bike commuter come and complain to us, and I followed up, and I understand completely what the complaints are. And let me ask you, and this may be part of it, who approves a closure of the greenway? Is it NDOT or Parks?
Parks.
Parks, okay. So we need to drag them into it. And I tried. I went to the Greenways Commission and said, you folks need to pay attention to this kind of thing. And they looked at me like I was from Mars. But and one other thing, because you've got a picture of the hub here. You remember when they were here, we talked about, gave them the idea they could have one place you could go in and give complaints for biking and walking pedestrians, such as parking and bike lanes. Have you ever followed up with them on that?
No, that I haven't. I'll have to reach out to Aaron on that.
Because some of us use the hub a lot, and it is really confusing sometimes to find things.
Let me send her an email and call her
Yeah, if you
tomorrow
don't mind. I mean.
So just one site for complaints on the.
Yeah, for bikeways, greenways, maybe, anybody as a pedestrian or a bike rider that they would want to, like somewhere in there's repair of bollards, that kind of thing. And again, you can put in maintenance requests for greenways.
Let me see what we can do. I'll call her.
We'd also requested a report from NDOT at our last meeting about the make eye contact signs, if that has been generated.
I currently don't have anything. I don't know, Director Alarcon, did you want to speak to that? They had a question last time. They made a statement on, they voted on the make eye contact signage, where they were, or will we change them, I think? You wanted them changed.
So I'm not 100% if the team pulled together where all their, Diana Alarcon with NDOT. I'm not sure if the team has made a list of where all they're located at, but I was trying to go by, but I didn't get out of the office in time, by 3rd Avenue to see if the signs got changed out there, because we did get different signs to install and remove the other ones. I'm just not 100% sure if they've been done yet or not. And I didn't get a chance to run by there this evening to check, but I will do that on my way over to the next meeting.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think the request last month was for us to have a list of the current locations, to remove the current signs and instead make some kind of evidence-based infrastructure improvement at that location. So it wasn't to install new signs, it was to do something that would actually protect pedestrians. But we can definitely talk about that next time.
I can work on getting you a location map.
Yeah, thank you.
May I ask what y'all mean by infrastructure at the location? Because what your thought process is on that?
Yeah, I think the general process is that these signs are not helpful to protect pedestrians, but we have a lot of other changes that would be, such as raised crosswalks, signage improvements, lighting improvements. There are a lot of things that we can do that actually have been shown to protect pedestrians. But telling people to make eye contact is not something that has actually been shown to protect people.
No, but it's meant to make awareness. And that has, the more that everybody is aware of their surrounding and their area, no matter what mode they're using, is a win. And so that's really what they're meant for, is for awareness. I don't disagree, but going out there and thinking that we can quickly throw in a raised crosswalk or some other of the infrastructure you just mentioned is not as doable, because there is always a little bit more involved in that. But I appreciated the clarity. That's very helpful. So thank you.
Yeah, and it wasn't an expectation this would be done immediately. It was just saying that, these signs, I think, distract from other changes that could actually be effective. And so instead of saying that we've checked the box and put up a sign, can we think past that and think about what would actually be effective now or in the future?
So I think we do that all the time. When we are looking at every single crosswalk or intersection. We're constantly doing that, especially when we have a project in front of us and we know we need to build in pedestrian safety. We do that with everything. It's just unfortunately we can't get to everything because of the funding and how much we have. And so we have to really look at the high injury network, because that's where our initial focus is. That's where most of our injuries are occurring, or serious injuries, at least in fatalities. So that's where we put our focus at. We would love to be able to do it everywhere, but that just isn't happening with the funding levels that we have. But as we become aware of stuff, that does get added to the project, especially if we know that we're going to be doing something. We also do that when TDOT is looking at doing a project. We will actually meet with them and talk through some of the safety improvements that we have recognized that have happened and what we would like to see them do, even to the point where we'll actually fund it. So actually, I just got a contract back with about on Thompson Lane, a place about actually putting in bike lanes. It's their road, and actually delineators as a separation and some other harding with that. So we do that everywhere and every opportunity we get, whether it's an NDOT project, a TDOT project, a water project. We're constantly doing that. But there's just a lot that needs to be done because we have 40 years worth of work where it was more of about moving a vehicle than it was about other modes. So we're constantly looking at that.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I do have a question. Did we get to see the new design? I know you said that some have been replaced and will be replaced.
I don't know if they have or haven't, but we certainly can share it with y'all.
Okay.
Yeah, we can share it. Oh, I'm echoing.
But
really bad.
should that not have been done first? Because it may have some of the same, concerns that we had previously, if they've already started replacing them and, and nobody saw the
So
design.
again, these signs are for awareness, not necessarily for a safety aspect, but it's meant to make people aware, to look at their surroundings. It's what we hope that everyone will be doing, no matter what mode they're in. But we'll be glad to share it out. But it's to bring awareness, as was the other signs.
All right, I think the last item to discuss is just any agenda items we'd like to see presented at our next meeting.
Not necessarily agenda items, but Brent, can you, I know our next meeting's December 15th, and then we've talked about this. We've changed the date for January and February because of MLK and President's Day, but I think they're still showing the regular date on our calendar. Do you mind updating that? Or do y'all have updates on your calendar for January and February?
Let me double check those, and I will also send you out this calendar I gave you a couple months back. And if you could double check it, make sure those dates work, because I think we stayed away from some of the weeks where the kids are off for school. I think we did those in holidays, but just double check it.
Okay.
And I tried to send you out invitations for the whole year, but I'll check that.
So the 19th is MLK Day, and it's still showing on our calendars that we're having this meeting, but it should be the 26th, which I think is on the calendar you're going to send us. And then the same with President's Day. So those just both move back a week or down a week. Thank you.
In the subcommittee meetings, we discussed traffic cameras, not speed cameras, but traffic cameras. And I'd like to see that be a topic we discuss.
Yeah, there's a question that came up that, are both speed cameras and red light cameras permitted under state law? Maybe we have an update tonight.
So I can help speak to that. So traffic cameras are not legal per state statute. Speed cameras are legal, but only in school zones. So we are working with MMPD about, as well as MNPS, about the potential of putting speed cameras in school zones, especially on the high entry network. So there is a little bit of political jump we have to do, but we do recognize that that would be an advantage, especially in school zones where we haven't had a uniform look to what the school zones should be. We are applying that everywhere throughout Davidson County, but speed cameras are something that we're looking to add to it as well.
We need to do a little background research before we look into this. Yeah.
Other agenda items people would like to see next month? Well, we'll also have our annual report to vote on. That'll be one item, kind of looking back over our progress over the past year. Sounds like the East Bank update will get moved to next meeting as well. All right, and then Britt and I will talk tomorrow and we'll figure out.
Chair, if I could, I can speak a little bit to the East Bank. I want to share that right now, there really isn't much of an update on East Bank and what's going on. As you had heard from Michael's presentation with Chime, there's kind of been I don't want to say a stall, but with Gallatin, we are kind of taking a more holistic look, and we need to do the same thing now with East Bank. And so what I mean by that is there are other things that need to happen on East Bank before we can ever consider what we're going to do with that boulevard. So we've kind of halted that to have those conversations because there's other roads that take a priority over the boulevard at the moment. And so we're in we're in a holding pattern with that, and we have been for many months. I do not see that getting released anytime soon until we get some ideas from like TDOT, what their next steps would be, which they play a very vital role in this, especially because James Robertson Bridge needs some improvements, the roadway needs some improvements, and really the boulevard cannot even be considered built or looked at being built until we know what we're going to do with that. Once we get through the NEPA process, it's only valid for 2 years, and James Robertson has to have something happen to it before we can even consider the boulevard, and we're afraid the NEPA would actually expire. So we've just put everybody in a holding pattern at the moment on the East Bank. So I just wanted to share that out because there's really nothing going on right now. And I'd hate to have y'all continue that on the agenda when we haven't done anything, but as soon as there is something moving, we'll be glad to share it out.
Thanks for that clarification. All right, anything else?
Move adjourned. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.